What is up, guys? Today we will be comparing the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G to the iPhone 13, and you will actually be surprised that you actually do have a ton of advantages on the A52 5G that you wouldn't think of, since the iPhone 13 is a flagship device here. So let's go ahead and get started with the price. So you can find this for as cheap as 330 bucks. I have that link down below. iPhone 13 brand new is going to cost you 800 bucks. So one of the things that you'll notice here is hardware differences. So just to go ahead and put these side by side, you can see the A52 is just a much taller device, and the 13 is definitely a little bit thicker. You guys can see that button layout there, and the left side, you guys can see that. Now, you also will have a headphone jack on the A52. So if you're a fan of the headphone jack, you do have that on this device here. Both of these phones do have stereo speaker setups as well. Now, obviously, the big difference here is the build quality. So you do have just a more premium feel on the 13. It is a glass and metal device here. The A52 is mostly pretty much plastic, so it's got a sort of matte finish that doesn't pick up a ton of fingerprints, especially depending on what color you get. But I do like the design of both. But yes, the 13 is going to feel, obviously more premium here. But I guess the one good thing about a plastic phone is that if you drop this, it's not going to crack like a glass phone would. So I guess that's one thing that you do have an advantage with. Alright, so here is one of the first big differences here. So with the iPhone 13, we do have a 6.1 inch display. It's a Super Retina XDR OLED display. It's HDR10, and it is 1170 by 2532 resolution with 460 for the PPI. On the A52, we do have a Super AMOLED display. It's 120 Hz, and it's a 6.5 inch, so you can see it's a much bigger display than the 13, and it's a 1080p panel, 407 for the PPI. So obviously, color wise, Samsung is going to give you that really vibrant color that a lot of people like. The iPhone 13's display is super color accurate as well, so I also really like this display too. But as far as the display design, you can see the A52 has the really nice punch hole. It gives you more of a immersive experience here. We have a slightly smaller notch this year on the iPhone, but again, it's still not anywhere near as good as a punch hole. But the big difference here is you actually have a 120 Hz display on the A52 5G. So when we're scrolling and stuff, the A52 actually feels way smoother than the 13 here. The 13 still has a 60 Hz panel here, and a lot of you guys are like, well, can you even tell the difference? Yes, you can tell the difference, especially when you go into any application like Instagram and start scrolling. You will notice that difference immediately. And not just Instagram, really, if you're just doing anything, if you're just scrolling on the home screen, you will notice that 120 Hz kicking in there. So it's just super smooth on the A52 5G. Also, you can take advantage of games that have the 120 Hz in the Google Play Store. So definitely, I think the A52 5G has the better display here. Alright, so here is also another massive difference here. So this is really one of the big differences between a flagship and a mid-range. Is going to be the CPU power. So with the A52 5G, we're on Android 11, One UI, and then we have the Snapdragon 750G, and then the Adreno 619. We also have micro SD card support, 128 gigs of internal storage, and 6 gigs of RAM. On the iPhone, we do have iOS 15, the Apple A15 chip, no SD card support, 128 gigs of internal storage, and 4 gigs of RAM. You can see these Geekbench scores. You can see it's a pretty dramatic difference here. So it basically translates into real life with basically the 13 will open applications faster, and also your gaming experience is going to be much better on the 13 for sure, as we're going to see with PUBG and stuff like that. But as far as one thing I noticed, as far as opening your normal applications like YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, you're not going to notice actually that much of a difference. You can see it's pretty much neck and neck. It's only when you kind of open games and stuff like that is where you kind of see like that second or two difference there. But they're kind of neck and neck when it comes to things that aren't games. And if we fly into PUBG here, you also see a big difference with graphic performance here. We will be able to pretty much max out PUBG. And the A52 5G, it does a decent job with PUBG, But again, if you're a gamer, obviously FPS is king, so it's not going to do as good of a job. Okay, we're in A52 right behind it. Alright, so here are the settings that you will be working with here. Alright, so as you can see, we don't even have an extreme option, unfortunately, on the A52 5G. Boom, as you can see, we can go all the way up. So that is going to be one of the big differences between at least power with these two phones, is that, you know, you just have that really good you know, flagship processor. And again, they both play well, it's just the FPS. So it's not like the A52 is bad by any means. Plays perfectly fine. And I really like the display. On the iPhone, of course, it's going to play really great as well too. So that is a decision that you're going to have to, if you're not a gamer, then you won't care. Let's go ahead and get a speaker comparison going, guys. Max volume here. See what they sound like side by side. Again, the iPhone 13, slightly louder, much more bass. Definitely going to be the overall better speaker here. I think I have Dolby Atmos turned on. Turn it off. Yeah, we do actually get a little bit more bass, so I think this actually sounds better with Dolby Atmos off. Yeah, so, but still, the 13 speaker is pretty impressive this year. I actually really like it. Alright, let's talk about some additional features. So both phones have an IP rating. We do have IP68 dust and water resistant on the iPhone 13, and we actually have IP67 dust and water resistant on the A52 5G, which is really cool. Both phones have NFC as well, and also getting into your phone. So iPhone does have face unlock, but it only has face unlock. It does not have another option. The A52 5G has the under the display fingerprint sensor, which is really cool, and you also have an option for face unlock too, which is really nice. So I can take advantage of this and face unlock, which is something that I always prefer. I always prefer having two methods on my phone here. Alright guys, let's talk about the camera situation. So on the A52 5G, you actually have a very good camera setup. It's a 64 megapixel standard, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, a 5 megapixel macro, and a 5 megapixel depth sensor. You also get 4K video, and then you have a 32 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K. You get some really clean shots with the A52 5G. I was really impressed when I first got it. It actually takes some great photos, very good color accurate photos, very good detail, good dynamic range. The macro is really fun to play with. You get a good depth of field on this phone, and also video is fairly solid on here too. So I really have zero complaints at this price point. And of course with the iPhone, you know what you're getting: a 12 megapixel standard, a 12 megapixel ultra wide. You're just going to get some very good quality shots here, 4K video at 60, 30, 24, and then you have a 12 megapixel selfie that shoots in 60, 30, 25, and 24. So the iPhone is just going to take some fantastic photos. I really enjoyed taking pictures with this, but the one thing that this phone does not have that I kind of miss is a macro lens. So the A52 does have one, but the iPhone does not. You have to get the Pro model. But yeah, so that's the only thing that I miss here. But overall, very good cameras on both of these phones here. Alright, so let's talk about the battery situation. On the A52 5G, we have a 4,500 milliamp battery with 25 watt charging. On the iPhone, we have a 3,240 milliamp battery with 20 watt charging. So the A52 does charge slightly faster than the iPhone. We also have the MagSafe wireless charging and just the overall standard wireless charging on the 13 as well. We have no wireless charging on the A52. Basically, battery life is going to be all day on both of these phones, so I get very good battery life on both of these guys. So if you're trying to choose between the two, battery life is not really a big decision. there because they both do an outstanding job here. So basically, two really good phones, guys. I think it's a kind of a tough decision. So what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.